Welcome to Kind Curiosity, where we explore those who have the audacity to be kind. My name is Felicia. This episode is for women in tech who were warned, sometimes subtly, sometimes explicitly, that kindness would make them look weak. For the woman who learned to edit themselves, lower their volume, or stay silent just to survive in rooms they had already earned the right to occupy. Women are taught that respect requires hardness, that warmth undermines authority, that being too smart, too capable, or too kind makes men uncomfortable, and therefore must be managed. We're told leadership demands emotional distance and that kindness is a liability in an industry moving at the speed of light. Women are expected to be competent, but not threatening, intelligent, but not intimidating. Today, I want to challenge that. Recently, I sat down with Nicole McGuire, the founder and CEO of Trail Guide CRM, a Salesforce consultancy and product company. Nicole has spent over 2 decades in tech as a full-stack computer scientist and Salesforce architect, leading complex CRM implementations and building tools that help teams actually deliver on what they promise. In our conversation, Nicole talked about a leadership philosophy that does not separate excellence from empathy. She encouraged her team to act decisively, experiment, and take ownership, while understanding that setbacks are part of the growth process, not proof that someone doesn't belong in the room. She leads with a very clear message. We're going to do hard things, we're going to do them well, and if you make a mistake, we're going to learn from it, not weaponize it. Nicole highlighted her commitment to fostering an environment where mistakes are viewed as valuable learning opportunities rather than reasons for apprehension. When her decisions are challenged, especially by men who assume they know better, Nicole stays firm. She listens, she asks for evidence, and unless someone can provide a compelling reason to change course, she holds the line. She remained resolute and confident in her decisions. What she noticed over time was telling. Many of the men pushing back weren't truly engaging with her rationale. They were asserting expertise. They were defending ego. In most instances, the men who questioned her decisions appeared more focused on asserting their own expertise rather than engaging thoughtfully with her rationale. If you've ever wondered whether you have to become someone else to succeed in tech, this is the tension Nicole lives in every day. Not because she lacks skill, but because the environment was never designed with women in mind. Nicole is very intentional about kindness. Not be nice so people like you. Not smile more so you seem more approachable. She treats kindness as a leadership strategy. For her, that looks like being transparent about decisions so no one is left guessing. Turning mistakes into learning reviews, not public shaming. Giving feedback in a way that preserves dignity instead of destroying confidence. Making sure junior staff are heard in meetings, not just the loudest voices. She told me, when leaders are kind on purpose, when they model curiosity instead of control, teams don't just perform better, they stay. Here's what we don't say enough. Women leave tech not because they can't do the work. They leave because they're tired of doing the work and managing egos, bias, and being overlooked for the same work men get celebrated for. Unchecked ego, dismissiveness, silence from leadership. Those things slowly erode confidence, even in the most capable women. And that erosion doesn't show up on performance reviews. It shows up in exits. So today, I want to highlight women in tech who have the audacity to be kind and the courage to stand up for other women and girls in an industry that still too often sees women as support staff or tools not leaders. Let's start with Kimberly Bryant. Kimberly is an electrical engineer who worked for companies like DuPont, Pfizer, and Genentech before she became a founder. In 2011, she started a program when her daughter expressed interest in computer programming. During her search for courses, she noticed that enrollment was mostly males and very little, if any, Black participants. She could not find a space that would be welcoming and inviting to her little Black child. So Kimberly had the audacity to create a program that would target enrollment for Black girls. Black Girls Code was founded in 2011 to teach computer programming to girls of color, with a goal of seeing 1 million of them in the tech industry. The program began with school-age girls and after-school summer programs. Leaders who worked with Kimberly highlighted her commitment to creating opportunity and confidence for girls who are often excluded from tech. Her goal of seeing 1 million girls of color in tech was partially realized upon the opening of 15 chapters across the United States and South Africa. A great accomplishment after starting with only 12 girls. One quote from Kimberly that stands out is, "Imagine a world where girls of color are building and creating the technology that will change the world, not just consuming it." Dr. Fei Li is a Stanford computer science professor, co-director of the Stanford Institute for Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence, and former chief scientist of AI and machine learning at Google Cloud. If you work in tech, and especially in AI, you've probably touched something her work made possible, even if you didn't know her name. She's widely known for creating Imaginet, a massive visual database that helped drive the deep learning behind modern computer vision. In other words, a lot of the image recognition technology that powers today's apps, cameras, and systems is built on work she helped lead. Fei observed an often overlooked issue in the technology sector. The rapid advancement of technology was outpacing our curiosity about its effects on society. She demonstrated the courage to voice these concerns publicly, questioning the prevailing tendency among technology leaders to prioritize innovation and being first to market over carefully considering the broader human impact. She wanted to make sure ethics, empathy, and accountability are not afterthoughts in AI development. She had the audacity to ask, what is the risk when technology is developed without human context built in? Noting that technology is moving faster than our curiosity about its impact. Fei has the courage to say that out loud in rooms full of people who are rewarded for shipping first and asking questions later. She keeps pushing leaders to move from "can we build it" to "who does this affect? Who could this harm? Who is missing from the table when these decisions are made?" She often talks about keeping the curiosity we had as children, the kind that asks why and who and what if, and bringing that into how we design technology. That's kind curiosity. Not slowing progress down just to be cautious, but directing progress so it actually serves people. When curiosity is paired with empathy, leaders stop asking only, "How do we make this faster?" and start asking, "How do we make this better for everyone?" That shift is where kindness becomes strategic, not sentimental. Fei has warned that uncurious people build dangerous systems. Not always because they're malicious, but because they stop questioning their own blind spots. When leaders fail to stay curious, bias gets coded into systems. Now let's talk about Dr. Joy Bolen-Weenie. She is a Rhodes Scholar, a Fulbright Fellow, a Stamp Scholar, an Astronaut Scholar, and an Anita Borg Institute Scholar. Joy had the audacity to notice something most people were ignoring. When she used facial analysis systems, she saw a pattern. The technology struggled to correctly detect and classify non-white faces, especially Black and brown skin. In other words, the very systems being sold as objective and accurate failed most on the faces of people who look like her. As a researcher at MIT, she began systematically testing commercial facial analysis systems and documenting their errors. She compared how these systems performed on different skin tones and genders and found that accuracy for darker-skinned women dropped dramatically compared to lighter-skinned men. Instead of shrugging and moving on, she did what kind curiosity does. She asked, what is happening here? Who is being left out of the data? And what harm could this cause? Joy had the courage to publish those findings. Her research, including what became widely known through the gender shade study, showed that major tech company systems were far less accurate on women and people with darker skin tones. Her work added pressure that helped push companies like IBM and Microsoft to review and improve their facial analysis products, and in some cases, to suspend or rethink how they offered these tools. And her concerns were not just personal opinion. In 2019, the National Institute of Standards and Technology released a large-scale study on facial recognition. They analyzed photos of over 8 million people and found that Asian and Black individuals were, in many algorithms, dozens of times more likely than white men to be misidentified. That study confirmed what Joy had been warning. Biased systems create unequal risk. Joy refused 2 expectations at once. She refused the idea that women should stay silent while men speak. And she refused the idea that being a Black woman in tech meant she should stay grateful, quiet, and out of the way. Instead, she used her expertise to name the problem and to change it. She founded the Algorithmic Justice League, an organization dedicated to exposing and addressing bias in AI systems. Their work combines art and research to show the real-world harms that can come from unexamined algorithms and to push for equity and accountability in how AI is built and deployed. Their motto captures it clearly. We combine art and research to illuminate the social implications and harms of AI. As part of her research, Joy helped introduce the Pilot Parliaments Benchmark, a database designed to better represent a diverse range of faces, especially across gender and skin tones. This benchmark gave developers and researchers a more equitable way to evaluate how well their systems were actually performing and where they were failing people. Joy's work is a reminder that kind curiosity in tech is not soft. It's courageous. It's looking at powerful systems and asking, who is this failing? And caring enough to not look away. One of my favorite things she says is, if you have a face, you have a place in the conversation about how AI is used. That's the audacity to be kind, insisting that everyone has a right to be protected and not just the people the system sees clearly. Shaha Rose Jalanya co-founded Women 2.0 back in 2006 as a direct response to what she saw in tech and startups. Tech had talent, tech had money, but tech did not have enough women at the founder level. Women 2.0 started as a way to give women in technology and entrepreneurship access to networks, access to mentorship, and visibility that had historically been controlled by a very narrow group of people. It became a global community and media platform aimed at aspiring and establishing women founders in the tech sector. One of its core offerings was an incubator for ideas. a program where engineers, designers, business professionals, and marketers could come together to launch and shape high-tech ventures. In other words, a place where women didn't have to ask permission to be founders. Her work is a practical expression of kindness and shared leadership. Shahar Rose didn't just say, "We need more women in tech." She helped build the infrastructure, events, programs, mentoring, content, so that women could find each other, form teams, and get their ideas off the ground. At one point, she shared some of the impact numbers from the companies Women 2.0 supported. Out of the roughly 100 companies that went through its programs, she estimated that around 38 raised more than $90 million in seed and venture funding. 24 joined accelerators, and 11 were acquired by larger corporations. Behind every one of those numbers is a founder who didn't have to build alone. Shahar Rose had the audacity to think beyond what the world told her she should be. And she had the courage to want that same possibility for other women and girls who looked like her. She once said, "Women no longer have an if I can mindset. Now it's more about how can I be in tech, start something in tech, fund something in tech." That shift is exciting. And it happened because we created a network where we show daily that women are innovating. After Women 2.0, she also helped launch Founder Labs, an initiative focused on mobile startups. Her goal there was to change what she called the founder force. She pointed out that while the general workforce was becoming more diverse, the founder pool still looked very homogeneous. Founder Labs intentionally built teams that were diverse in experience level, gender, and ethnicity, again using structure, not just slogans to create change. More recently, Shahar Rose became a partner at Unshackled Ventures, an early-stage venture capital fund that focuses on supporting immigrant founders in the United States. That mission is personal for her. She was born a Canadian citizen and came to the U.S. with no family wealth, no big safety net, and no built-in network. She worked as a builder in startups, petitioned for her own work visa, paid her own legal fees, and eventually became an American citizen. She didn't wait for a system to hand her permission. She navigated that system, advocated for herself, and then turned around and used her experience to invest in others, especially founders who, like her, are building a country that isn't their birthplace. Shahar Rose proves that a woman can advocate for herself and advocate for others without abandoning kindness. Her career is a through line of kind curiosity in tech, asking who is missing, and then doing the work to bring those people in. Let me bring this a little closer to home. I once worked for a remote-based tech firm and was assigned to a project led by a man who controlled every conversation. He dominated meetings, shut people down mid-sentence, and treated decisions like they were his birthright, not a team process. I saw the impact on the group and I named it, directly, calmly, and clearly. I called out the way he was steering everything and how it was affecting the work and the people doing it. What happened next is familiar to a lot of Black women in tech. Because he was close to leadership, my concerns didn't go anywhere. No one followed up. No one asked questions. No one said, "Let's look at this more closely." When I quietly checked in with colleagues who had worked with him longer, they weren't surprised. They told me, "Yeah, that's just how he is. He's always been like that." In other words, the pattern was known. It was documented in people's memories. It just wasn't a problem anyone with power was willing to solve. And me, I was new. I didn't have relationships at the top. I didn't have political cover. So instead of being seen as someone protecting the health of the team, I became the problem. My contributions started to be discounted. My presence was treated like a disruption instead of an asset. One male colleague pulled me aside and said something like, "Yeah, we know that's how he is. I saw the way he talked to you, and I agree. He needs to tone it down. But," and then came the shrug, the trailing off, the quiet message: nothing is going to change. I heard that "but" loud and clear. What I took from that experience was simple and heavy at the same time. In that environment, his connections mattered more than my voice. His proximity to leadership protected him. My lack of proximity made me expendable. That's the reality for so many Black women in tech. You can be right, you can be skilled, you can be clear, and still be treated as the problem, simply because you dared to say, "This isn't okay." Let's look at the data. Power.com stated in recent years, women have founded nearly half of all new businesses. Women started 49% of new U.S. businesses in 2024, reflecting a 69% increase since 2019. Forbes magazine found companies founded or co-founded by women often outperform those founded by men across key indicators like revenue generation and job growth. One analysis from Norda Bank found firms with a female CEO or female board chair delivered 25% annualized returns over 8 years, compared to 11% for the broader market. Peterson Institute for International Economics found that firms with women in executive and director positions consistently reported higher profit margins historically compared to those without female leaders. Science Direct reported that firms with a higher share of female executives show better investment efficiency and decision-making strengths, especially when women are represented in top management teams. There are countless studies that show women in executive leadership proves beneficial for companies and organizations. The Harvard Law School Forum on Corporate Governance reported that despite performance evidence, women remain underrepresented at the very top, with about 8.2% of the S&P 500 CEOs being women in 2023. If the priority is to build organizations, portfolios, or investment frameworks that maximize profitability and resilience, research suggests gender diversity at senior levels correlates with stronger financial outcomes, especially when combined with inclusive practices. Women founders can drive innovation and job growth, often outperforming expectations relative to funding levels. Reducing structural biases in funding and sponsorship unlocks more profitable, sustainable enterprise growth. You don't change tech culture by hardening yourself to survive it. You change it by leading differently, even when it costs you comfort. Including women in the room allows us to impart kindness with curiosity into the equation. Women can and do see things differently. If we make up 50% of the overall population, it will beg to differ that including us in those conversations and positions would be a good business strategy. If you're a woman in tech listening to this, your kindness is not a flaw. Your curiosity not naive. Your empathy not unprofessional. They are skills, and they are leadership skills. The audacity isn't in being kind when it's easy. It's in being kind when the system rewards the opposite. So here's the question I'll leave you with. What would shift on your team, in your organization, in your career, if more women were hired, promoted, and placed in leadership positions? What if kindness stopped being something you apologize for and started being something you practiced intentionally? Because the future of tech doesn't just need smarter systems. It needs more women who are brave, inject curiosity into the organization from the top down, and who have the audacity to be kind. I'm Felicia. Thank you for listening. If this episode resonated with you, please leave a comment, like, and share. Until next time.